20 spine-chilling discoveries, terrifying secrets of the haunted and forbidden internet exposed. It started with a click. Late at night, when shadows loom and silence thickens like fog, Jake stumbled upon something sinister. As he scrolled through his phone, a website promised to unveil dark secrets lurking in the corners of their suburban neighborhood. He felt a thrill, the kind that sent shivers racing down his spine. Urban legends were supposed to be fictional, right? With each line he read, dread crept into his veins. Every story dragged him deeper into a chilling labyrinth of the unknown. Missing persons. Haunting specters. Here, the line between myth and sinister reality bled together. Back home, his mother, Sarah, had just returned from another grueling shift at the diner. Exhausted and fraught with anxiety, she noticed the strangeness in the air. The lights flickered, shadows danced eerily across the walls, and she felt the weight of something unsettling pressing down on her chest. She called out for Jake, no response. Fumbling, she knocked on his door. A muffled "go away" echoed back, each word laced with defiance. Inside, Jake was lost in the glow of his screen, headphones snugly in place, oblivious to the chaos outside. What he read made him itch with curiosity but not with fear. A neighbor, the one with the immaculate lawn and an unervingly friendly smile, had vanished without a trace months ago. Rumors claimed the last known sighting was connected to the very forum Jake was now engrossed in, a twisted rabbit hole that deceptively promised fictional thrills yet had too many true horrors. As days slipped into nights, the disturbances grew louder. Jake's phone buzzed incessantly with anonymous messages, their contents eerily personal. "I see you, Jake. Your mom is too busy to protect you." Each pulsive vibration rattled him, like fingers creeping down his spine, making his heart clench with primal fear. Shadows outside the window morphed into dark figures, just out of focus. He felt eyes following him, a gnawing sensation tightening his throat. Sarah, too, felt the change. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Today, her coffee spilled at the diner, a regular occurrence lately. She glanced outside, and thought she caught a glimpse of the neighbor staring too intently. Why? The paranoia burrowed deeper every day. A mother's instinct clawed at her skin, relentless in its warnings. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." But that night clicked over to an abyss of terror. Jake didn't come home. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest, each beat echoing louder than the last. Pacing the living room, she felt ghostly fingers trace the back of her neck. In her gut, she knew something was very wrong. Rushing out into the quiet streets, fear gripped her, squeezing her lungs. She knocked on doors, asked questions, but only received strange looks and distracted reassurances. Those friendly smiles now felt like masks hiding treachery. Suddenly, her phone buzzed a new text, an unknown number. She grasped it tightly, body trembling. She clicked it open, dread seeped through her veins like poison. A photo of Jake bound, terrified eyes staring directly at her. An icy voice echoed deep in her mind, "You should have never let him wander." Racing toward the heart of darkness in her seemingly perfect neighborhood, Sarah faced an unbearable reality. One of their own was a predator, and hidden in every smile was a threat. Who could she trust now? As she rushed onward, the chilling realization hit her: her notion of safety had been a deadly illusion. The search for Jake had just begun, but she couldn't shake the question resonating through the recesses of her mind: who would come to her aid when the enemy wore familiar faces? Sarah sprinted down the street, desperation fueling her every step. The glow from streetlights flickered above, casting haunting shadows that twisted and turned with her frantic motions. Chilled to the bone, she clutched her phone, the image of Jake seared into her mind. How could she be so blind to the danger lurking just beyond the cheerful facades of her neighbors? Each house loomed like an ominous sentinel, watching her approach with unseen eyes. She paused at the corner of Cedar and Elm, feeling the deepening void of fear pool in her stomach. With breath hitching, she quickly dialed 911, but the ringing seemed to echo back to her, mocking her urgency. Please answer, she whispered into the night, the phone shifting to voicemail as her heart sank further. Turning back to the street, a sudden rustle caught her attention. It was the neighbor Mr. Baker standing on his lawn, face shadowed by the dim light. "Sarah? Is everything all right?" His voice dripped with a feigned innocence, yet she felt the ice creeping up her spine. "Have you seen Jacob?" "I can't find him," she replied, unable to grasp at her trembling words. Mr. Baker stepped forward, his smile unwavering. "Oh, the boy's just playing a little game, I'm sure. Kids today," he chuckled softly, but the laughter resonated like a death knell. "I need your help," she pressed, heart racing as she felt the breath of his words coil around her throat. "Of course, I'd be glad to help. Let us check around the block. I could have sworn I heard something coming from the old park." He gestured towards the thick woods bordering the neighborhood, an eerie place where laughter once echoed but now felt like a graveyard. Every instinct screamed at her as she followed him down the empty street. The trees loomed larger than life, stretching like skeletal fingers, casting dark shadows that danced with unseen movement within their depths. The night was still, as if the world itself held its breath, waiting for something to break the silence. As they approached the park, shadows flickered in her peripheral vision. She squinted to look closer but saw nothing. "This way," Mr. Baker whispered, beckoning her deeper into the woods. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She could barely feel her limbs as she stepped into the underbrush. What was once a familiar path now felt like a descent into a nightmare. "Jake!" she called out, despair clinging to her voice like tar. The echo fell flat, swallowed by the oppressive gloom. Suddenly, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. Pulled from her dismay, she yanked it out. Another message. A video this time. With shaking hands, she clicked it open. The screen flickered, revealing a cramped basement. Her heart sank as the unmistakable sound of muffled sobs filled her ears. It was Jake. "Mom! Help!" he cried, despair laced in every note. In a panic, she turned to Mr. Baker, but he stood too still, too silent. His smile had faded, now replaced with something sharp and predatory. "You shouldn't have come here alone, Sarah," he said, the shadow of a threat curling around his words. A chill ran down her spine. Fear morphed into instinct as she darted past him, clay feet pounding against the gravel. The woods erupted with sound as branches cracked and leaves rustled, but behind her, Mr. Baker laughed, a chilling, echoing guffaw filling the night with an echo deep enough to drown her hopes. Racing to escape, the dark trees began closing in, constricting her path. "I'll find you, Jake!" she screamed, her voice fierce against the rising tide of terror. But the further she ran, the more the woods seemed to twist, time bending under the weight of despair. In that moment, it struck her like a lightning bolt, who else was watching? Suddenly, a flash of light flickered between the trees ahead. As she squinted, the outline of a figure emerged, but was it friend or foe? "Jake!" she shouted again, heart pounding, unsure of what waited for her just ahead. "Jake!" The name echoed, a prayer against the dark. Sarah forced her legs to move, fighting against the all-consuming dread that wrapped around her like a suffocating blanket. The figure ahead was still, each heartbeat sending a wave of uncertainty crashing through her. "Mom?" The voice was thin, trembling, a spark of hope igniting her desperation. It had to be him. She bolted toward the glimpse of light, hands stretching forward like a swimmer gasping for air. As she closed the distance, the figure solidified into a silhouette, but it was no longer a child. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. It was someone else. "Sarah," the figure whispered, stepping into the light of a flickering lantern, revealing a familiar face. It was Anna, Jake's friend. Both an ally and a potential threat lurking beneath the layers of panic clouding Sarah's mind. "I know where Jake is." Before Sarah could respond, the woods erupted behind her, the growl of the darkness returning to life. Panic froze the words on her lips as she struggled to grasp her surroundings. "Where?" was all she managed to gasp. Anna swiftly turned, eyes wide with urgency. "This way." She darted deeper into the trees, pulling Sarah with her, but the rustling grew louder, thrashing through the underbrush. Sarah glanced over her shoulder, fear spiking her heartbeat. Shadows thrummed with promise of danger, and laughter unpleasant and menacing drifted along the breeze. Faster! Anna urged. The two sprinted, branches snagging at their clothes, but Anna's frantic energy fed Sarah's resolve. Each step pushed them deeper into the heart of the woods, where a shiver ran along the ground like an electrical current, alive and waiting. "Everything is going to be okay," Anna called, her voice strained. "We just have to get to the abandoned shed. I'll explain everything when we get there." An abandoned shed? Distrust flickered in Sarah's mind. What kind of game was Anna playing? Her friend was often one to embellish tales. But as the realization settled, it twisted uncomfortably. What if there were truths buried beneath Anna's stories? The shed loomed ahead, a hunched figure against the night sky, its wooden walls mottled and decaying. Without pause, they burst through the door. Dust motes danced in the entry light, creating a haunting yet fantastic glow around them. "Jake, are you in here?" Sarah called into the darkness, voice trembling with urgency. Silence. A thick pause filled with dread choked her. "You need to see this." Anna stepped toward the far wall, where an old sheet hung like a ghost. With a swift motion, she pulled it down, revealing a series of intertwined branches tethered to crudely drawn figures, faces of despair, eyes wide in terror, growing from the dirt floor upwards. "What is this?" Sarah's heart dropped as she recognized the shapes. A collage of familiar people, their features warped, yet achingly recognizable. It was the neighborhood, their neighbors, friends, trapped in a web of horror. "This is what it's about, Sarah," Anna whispered, a shiver coursing through her own voice. "It's a curse. I didn't think it was real, but I saw it there tethered to the forest. We need to save them, save Jake." Cold realization tinged Sarah's spine as the walls felt like they were closing and something was keeping them all here, feeding off their fears. "How?" She stuttered, the air thickening around her as she remembered previous nights spent unwittingly, watching shadows slink through her window. Behind her, a sound rippled. Someone was trying to break in. "Anna, we need to go." But before she could hurry, the door cracked open, revealing silhouettes shifting just beyond the threshold. They weren't alone in their dread. "Sarah," a voice crooned, sweet like poison. "You didn't really think you could escape, did you?" The hunt was far from over, and the woods began to throb with anticipation. As Sarah faced the encroaching darkness, all hope seemed to slip through her fingers. "Who is coming for you, Sarah?" It slithered through the air, and she knew, whatever it was closer than ever. A slow creak cut through the tension, the door shuddering on its hinges as the shadows pressed in, crawling toward them like hungry insects. Sarah's heart raced, pounding in her ears like a war drum. "What is that?" she whispered, eyes darting from Anna to the now darkening doorway. "We need to stay quiet," Anna hissed, her gaze fixed on the silhouettes outside. The flickering lantern battled the blackness, casting frantic shapes on the shed's warped walls. The air felt electric with dread. The crooning voice hissed again, slithering through the stillness. "You can't hide, Sarah. We've always been here." With every syllable, Sarah felt the room's temperature drop. She could almost taste the chill, sharp and metallic. She pressed herself against the wall, searching for an escape, for anything that felt solid and safe. "Anna, what is it? Who are they?" Sarah's voice cracked, fear ripping through her, the fragile hope dulled by knowing they were not alone. "They're victims," Anna murmured, her eyes flicking to the chaos beyond the door. "Lost souls trapped by the curse. They don't want to hurt us. They want to send us back." She bit her lip, a flicker of guilt passing over her face. The shadows shifted again, merging into a grotesque form. A blurred face emerged from the darkness, silkily familiar yet twisted, indistinguishable from the monstrous figures of the disturbing artwork. It stepped forward, illuminated by the weak lantern light, revealing Jake's frightened features, now marred by dread. "Sarah," he gasped, reaching toward her with hands that trembled. "Please. Don't listen to them, Jake." Relief surged through her, but it was quickly stifled as she noticed the distance in his eyes, the fear that shone brighter than the hope of reunion. "What happened to you? They can control you. You have to run," he urged, desperation coating his every word. "They're coming for you." Crashing footsteps echoed from behind, reverberating through the woods as if the very earth were being ripped apart. The door trembled violently, the shadows outside mixing with growls and whispers, a cacophony of haunting voices intertwining into one terrifying chorus. Come out, they sang, the sound dragging down the air like heavy chains. Sarah, listen, Anna said urgently, her voice barely rising above the escalating chaos. Get to the back of the shed. We can escape through a broken wall. It's the only way. But Jake. Go! He screamed, and something in his tone pierced through her panic. She nodded, heart pounding like a jackhammer. Together, they sprinted across the shed's dusty floor, Anna's hand yanking Sarah towards a jagged gap in the rear wall. The door shuddered once more, cracking open just wide enough for a silhouette to slip through, dark and looming, a predator eager for its prey. Run! Anna growled, pushing Sarah toward the escape. With a final glance back at Jake, who was still lost in his own horror, she charged through the ragged hole. The night swallowed them whole, the cold air biting against her skin as they stumbled out into the dense forest. The rustling intensified, branches snapping like fingers snapping to life. They were hunted now. Where do we go? Sarah gasped, breathless, fear coursing through her veins. Find the others, Anna urged, eyes wild with adrenaline. We can break the curse together. They need our help. Before she could finish, an agonizing scream pierced the night air, echoing off the trees like nails on a chalkboard. It was close. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face, the icy hands of dread tightening around her heart. The hunt was just beginning. Anna, we can't. She choked, terror setting in as another scream followed, drawn out and chilling. But the shadows lurked, restless and hungry, and a sense of dread whirled around her like a vicious storm. They were coming, and as the darkness whispered her name, Sarah realized there was nowhere to hide. Who will seek salvation, Sarah? The voice taunted from the depths of the darkness as they ran, an ominous reminder that the woods held secrets far scarier than death. The question hung heavy in the air as they pushed deeper into the unknown, the very shadows feeding off their fear, the terror of revelation clawing at their heels. Branches clawed at Sarah's arms as she and Anna fled deeper into the forest, their breath escaping in frantic bursts. The whispers followed, distant but relentless, wrapping around them like tendrils of fog. Each rustle of leaves sent sharp jolts of panic through Sarah. Keep moving. Anna hissed, urgency thrumming in her voice. We need to find the clearing. It's south, the only place safe from them. Safe? The irony cut deep in Sarah's throat. Everything felt perilous. She could still hear Jake's warnings echoing in her mind, a chilling reminder of the danger that awaited them. Right there! Anna pointed ahead, and in the dim mist, Sarah saw the outline of what looked like an old stone fountain, nestled amidst wild overgrowth. They stumbled into the clearing, the air thickening as if weighted by countless secrets. The fountain was overgrown with vines, its surface cracked and stained, but it seemed inexplicably alive, pulsing with energy. What are we doing here? Sarah gasped, glancing around for any sign of the shadows lurking behind them. Anna knelt by the fountain, digging through the dirt with her fingers. It's here, I know it is. The stories talk about the fountain. It can break the curse. The memories of what Jake had warned about echoed in Sarah's mind. But how? We don't even know what holds it in place. Her voice trembled, betraying the underlying fear that coiled within her. Listen to me. Anna's voice was steady, a flicker of command amidst the chaos. We need water from the fountain. It carries the life force of this land. It can help the lost souls find their way home, including Jake. If we gather it, it may allow us to confront whatever holds them captive. We have to try. Just as desperation weighed on Sarah's heart, another scream echoed through the trees, a horrific wail that pierced the night. Anna! She yelled, eyes wide with terror as shadows stirred at the edge of the clearing. The air grew thick and suffocating, dark shapes slipping silently between the trees, their presence heavier than a shroud. Quick! Anna shouted, scooping up handfuls of muddy water from the fountain and letting it flow through her fingers. Sarah joined her, desperation fueling her every move, but as they filled their hands, the shadows advanced, dark and looming, each step carrying the weight of hunger, resentment, and lost hope. "Take it!" Anna shouted, her voice rising above the terrifying chorus. "Pour it around the fountain. It'll create a shield." Sarah didn't hesitate. The water poured from her hands like liquid memories, pooling around the base of the fountain, shimmering in the weak light. But the shadows surged forward, each whisper a taunt, a promise of despair. "You think this will save you?" they hissed. "You cannot stop what has been released." The air vibrated with their menace, each dark form stretching impossibly tall and wide. It felt like being trapped in a nightmare. Sarah's heart raced, knowing their escape depended on this fragile act. Together, Anna urged, gripping Sarah's arm. "We can't let them break us. Not now." With one last anguished scream from the depths of the woods, the shadows lunged, their twisted forms coiling around the fountain, desperation bubbling in their hollow voices. "Brave souls first, doomed to repeat," they chanted, eerily harmonizing as if mocking their struggle. Even as terror flashed through her, Sarah concentrated on the water, feeling its coolness seep into her skin, a momentary hope blooming in the maw of chaos. "Break free, please!" Sarah cried out, aware of the very lives that hung in the balance. As the final remnants of water pooled around the base, something pulsed beneath their feet. The ground shifted, cracking open with an unsettling groan. Anna's eyes widened. "What did we wake?" Suddenly, light burst forth, illuminating the surrounding darkness as shadows convulsed in agony. An eye-wrenching roar echoed, shaking the very trees. Had they unleashed salvation or a far greater horror? As the shadows reeled, Sarah stood rooted in place, fear catching in her throat. A looming figure began to emerge from the light, and all she could think of was that the nightmares weren't finished with them yet. "Run!" Anna screamed, but in her heart, Sarah felt a chilling uncertainty. Would they find the answers they sought, or was this only the beginning of their nightmare? The light enveloped the clearing, bright and blinding, exploding across the tangled underbrush like a star igniting. Sarah shielded her eyes, heart racing, as fear wrestled with a bizarre curiosity. What had they unwittingly unleashed? "Stay close!" Anna shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. But even as she said it, the shadows writhed, making it clear that safety was an illusion. The earth trembled beneath their feet, and a deep growl rumbled from the heart of the light. Sarah's pulse quickened as she caught a glimpse of the emerging figure, towering and grotesque. It seemed to be made of shifting darkness and shimmering light, a monstrous blend that twisted in impossible ways. "Don't look back!" Anna urged, urgency rippling through her words. They broke into a run, propelling themselves toward the edge of the clearing. The fountain's water shimmered behind them, but it felt like a memory, distant and unattainable. Branches slashed at Sarah's arms as they darted back into the forest, the whispers morphing into a cacophony, echoing in her mind. The shadows lunged, snapping at their heels with a hungry fury. Each step was a frantic race against an unseen predator. "Which way?" Anna panted, glancing over her shoulder, terror written across her face. The shadows flowed like smoke, drifting swiftly after them, relentless. "Anywhere but here!" Sarah screamed. Each inhalation felt like panic clawing at her throat. The weight of unseen eyes grew heavier. They stumbled down a rocky incline, the ground uneven and treacherous. The forest seemed alive, veins of shadow crawling through the roots and twisting around their feet. Every sound magnified the breaking of twigs, the low growls behind them echoed like a sinister threat. "Whatever that thing is, we can't let it catch us!" Anna called out, her voice blending with the chaos. They scrambled forward, branches whipping, the darkness closing in. As they plunged deeper into the woods, a cold fog began to creep around them, a sickening mist that froze their breath mid-air. Sarah squinted, looking for any sign of safety, but all she could see were twisted trees, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal hands. "Do you hear that?" Anna whispered suddenly, stopping dead in her tracks. "What?" Panic clawed at Sarah's insides, every hair standing on end. "The whispers there." "Different," Anna said, dread creeping into her tone. Sure enough, the whispers morphed again, becoming discernible, almost coherent. "You cannot run from your fate. You will join us forever." Chills filled Sarah's spine. It wasn't just her imagination. The shadows now had voices, twisted and echoing with malice, pressing in on them from all sides. "Keep moving," she insisted, pulling Anna along, but the footfalls of shadows grew louder, each step a relentless drumbeat of despair. Just when Sarah thought they'd defined a path, they broke into a small hollow. The air was still, as if the forest had taken a breath, and at the center stood an ancient tree, its trunk twisted and gnarled, with jagged roots snaking out like the claws of a sleeping beast. "Look!" Anna pointed at the tree, fear mingling with something else. Was it hope? Maybe it can protect us. Or trap us, Sarah countered, but they stood paralyzed, breathing heavily, torn between the looming darkness and the ancient trunk. As they weighed their options, a piercing scream erupted from behind them, echoing through the woods, human and desperate. It sliced through the air and shattered any flicker of determination left in Sarah's heart. "Jake!" she cried out, realization crashing over her like a thunderstorm. The screams were echoes of the past of lost souls, trapped and tortured. As the shadows loomed closer, contorting and writhing, Sarah's heart seized. They were not alone, the forest seemed to throb with lives consumed by fear and madness. "Get away from that tree!" Anna shouted, and in a panic, they turned back, spotting the horrific figure surfacing through the mist, a monstrous form made of pure shadow, gaping maw ready to consume everything in its path. "Run!" echoed in her mind, the same instinct that had driven them all along, but this time it carried a weight of hopelessness. How could they escape this nightmare? As they sprinted away, the fog thickened, and the world around them twisted, spinning into an unfathomable void. Just as the shadow's grasp seemed imminent, the ground trembled beneath them, forcing them to stumble. This was only the beginning of uncovering the terrors that lurked within the forest and their own reality, but all Sarah could think was, what waited for them in the darkness? And would they find Jake before it was too late? A deafening roar shattered the night as Sarah and Anna sprinted deeper into the encroaching darkness. The forest transformed into a labyrinth of suffocating shadows, each step a desperate attempt to escape the grip of an unseen monster. The fog swallowed their breath, turning it into vaporous gasps as panic surged through their veins. "Keep going. We can't stop," Sarah urged, but her own voice felt small against the growing chaos. Anna clutched at her side, stumbling on an unseen route, her fear radiating like a palpable force. "Jake," what if she faltered, her voice barely a whisper, the weight of dread stifling. "Don't even think it," Sarah shot back, pushing her forward. "We'll find him." But every second felt like sand slipping through their fingers, the shadows festering, coiling, and closing in. The screams behind them echoed like a haunted melody, pulling at their sanity. They needed to find a way out. Suddenly, a blinding light ignited the path in front of them, illuminating a narrow gap between two ancient trees. A flicker of hope surged within Sarah, and without a second thought, she grabbed Anna's arm. "This way!" They shot towards the light, hearts pounding like war drums. As they squeezed through the narrow passage, branches pinched at their skin, a reminder that even in flight, danger lurked. The light grew brighter, almost blinding, and for a moment, Sarah felt the weight of the darkness lift. Then, the ground shifted beneath them. The once solid earth felt wooden, swaying as if it were alive. Panic bubbled up as they stumbled onto a wooden pathway, raised high above the ground, a decrepit boardwalk of splintered wood and rusted nails. "What is this place?" Anna gasped, eyes wide with confusion and terror as they searched for direction. "Some kind of hidden path, no time to think," Sarah replied, urging them forward. But the light, so promising moments before, began to dim, swirling back into shadows, the air rippling with static. A guttural growl erupted from the mist, deeper and more resonant than they had heard before. It reverberated through the wooden planks, as if the forest itself echoed the creature's lament. Each thunderous breath sent vibrations through Sarah's core, igniting every survival instinct within her. "Run!" she shouted, darting to the end of the walkway, where it forked into two directions. Shadows writhed in both paths, each promising safety and horror. "Left or right?" Anna cried, her face a mask of fear. "Left." Sarah made the choice on instinct, and they bolted. But the forest wasn't finished with them yet. The mist thickened, turning into a wall of gray that painted everything in despair. They could only see a few feet ahead, disorienting and terrifying. Suddenly, a scraping sound met their ears. Claws on wood, deliberate and haunting. Heart racing, Sarah turned her head slightly, and there in the haze 2 glowing eyes, piercing and hungry, locked onto her. "Ah!" Sarah screamed, her voice slicing through the fog. "Go! Go!" Anna urged, pulling Sarah with frantic strength as they barely managed to push through the thinning mist. Their legs trembling with exhaustion, they stumbled onto solid ground again, but now the world felt different, the colors drained, leaving everything gray and lifeless. A sense of creeping dread filled Sarah's stomach. The forest around them felt more hostile than ever, closing in, waiting for their next wrong move. Where are we?" Anna whispered, stepping cautiously, unsure of every footfall. "I don't know," Sarah gasped, glancing over her shoulder. The eyes remained, distance closing with every heartbeat, shadows breaking apart behind them. Die in the distance, a silhouette appeared, a figure cloaked in shadows, much like the one they had fled from. And through the silence, they heard it. A voice, soft yet commanding, easily slipping into their minds. "You have come to join us. You will not escape fate." The woods trembled again, reminding them of the otherworldly presence seeking their surrender. As they glanced at one another, resolve surged through them. They couldn't let it win. They could not let the forest claim them. Together, Sarah breathed, though her heart sank. But as they squared their shoulders, the path ahead shifted again. A series of doors opened, and for a fleeting moment, they caught a glimpse of what lay behind them, all the souls that had vanished, their faces twisted in anguish. A chilling thought struck Sarah. Were they too late to save Jake? Were his screams part of this cursed symphony? Which door? Anna's voice trembled, the fear evident in her eyes. "Any door!" Sarah shouted back, desperation spilling over as they faced the unknown. Each choice could spell liberation or doom. They moved toward one with a decision that could seal their fate. As the shadows writhed around them, creeping ever closer, what awaited them beyond the threshold? And would they be ready to face the darkness that lay beyond? The door loomed larger as they approached, its surface cracked and peeling, whispers of voices echoing from within. The air shifted, thickening as if the forest itself held its breath, eager to know their choice. "Please, let this work," Anna murmured, her hands shaking as she reached for the cold metal handle. "On 3, Sarah said, gripping the other side tightly. 1, 2, 3. With a synchronized heave, they pulled the door open, the creaking sound sharp in the oppressive silence. It swung inward, revealing a dimly lit room beyond. Just inside, the scent of decay hit them, a musty odor mingled with something metallic. They exchanged a look, fear mirrored in their eyes, but there was no time to hesitate. They stepped across the threshold, into the unknown. Inside the room, shadows danced along the walls, flickering as if they were alive. The walls seemed to pulse, heavy with the weight of unseen horrors. In the far corner, an old lantern flickered, casting weak light over forgotten relics, tattered books, rusting tools, and strange trinkets that hinted at past lives. "What is this place?" Anna whispered, stepping cautiously over scattered debris. "Some kind of shrine?" Sarah replied, her eyes scanning the uneasy gathering of objects. Each item seemed to thrum with pent-up energy, waiting for someone to unleash its secrets. Then it struck them. The lantern, their refuge. A bar of light in the suffocating shadow. But even as they clung to it, they felt a shiver creeping up their spines, the atmosphere thickening as if the very air was alive with dread. Suddenly, a low growl rippled from the depths of the room. Sarah and Anna spun around, wide-eyed. Out of the dark corners, forms emerged, specters silhouetted against the walls, faces twisted in expressions of eternal torment. These were the lost souls, the fateful echoes that had lingered too long. "Back!" Sarah shouted, instinct kicking in as she pulled Anna to her side, shielding her. "Wait!" Anna gasped, her eyes darting between the figures and the exit behind them, fear anchoring her feet. But one figure stepped forward, breaking the chain of terror that bound them in silence. It was tall, ethereal, with hollow eyes that bore into Sarah's soul. The air grew colder as it spoke. "You cannot turn back. Fate has chosen you. Join us or perish." The words hung, thick and heavy. The souls behind him rustled, a chorus of despair amplifying with each heartbeat. They were prisoners of despair, held captive by their choices. But for Sarah and Anna, time was running out. The forest was still out there, waiting. "Join you?" Sarah spat, rallying her courage. We will never join you. Then struggle, if you must, the figure said, its voice curling around them like smoke. But understand this, the darkness grows stronger. Every choice you make will lead to a consequence. The figure's hand gestured, and behind them, shadows elongated and clawed toward the door. The whispers grew louder, escalating into a cacophony of anguished cries. Anna! Sarah shouted, panic tightening her chest. We have to find another way out of here. With wrenching determination, they turned back. The exit loomed like a distant hope, but the shadows swirled violently, squeezing their memories and fears from every angle. They rushed toward the light, and as they did, they felt those claws of darkness tugging at them, wanting to drag them into the void. As the doorframe neared, a deafening roar erupted from behind, snapping like a whip, sending reverberations through their bones. Go! Sarah screamed, adrenaline surging as she grasped Anna's hand tight. Now! They lunged forward, diving through the door just as it started to close on them. A near-miss freedom felt so tantalizingly close. But before they could catch their breath, the door slammed shut behind them, plunging them into darkness once more. The clang echoed like a bell tolling a final judgment, sealing their choice. Breathless, they found themselves on a familiar dirt path, the fog still clinging around them. But this time, a sense of despair hung thicker in the air, a poison that slid into their lungs. What just happened? Anna gasped, scanning for a shred of safety. Sarah's heart pounded. I don't know. But we can't stop now. They'll come for us again. As they looked ahead, a new dread settled in their stomachs. Before them lay a narrow bridge, looming above a churning abyss, shadows swirling below like a feast prepared for their demise. Are we really going to cross that? Anna muttered, her voice barely a whisper, fear etched into her features, but they had no choice. The forest was relentless, the waits and the mocking cries would never cease unless they crossed. The darkness had chosen them. And in that moment, they understood they were part of the forest now, forever bound to its thirst for souls. With a deep breath, Sarah took a step forward, heart racing. A path to something unknown lay ahead, and murmurings of the forest still echoed behind them. What awaited them on the other side of the bridge? Would it be salvation or a descent into madness? The horror was far from over. The bridge creaked under their weight, ancient wood groaning, echoing like a heart slowing in fear. Mist swirled around their legs, snaking upwards, as if the very essence of the forest sought to drag them down into the abyss. Every step felt like a challenge, each board a reminder that they were being watched. Just keep moving, Sarah urged, forcing herself to breathe steadily. She could hear the whispers again, just above the howling wind. They called out her name, taunting her with memories of safety and warmth. Anna hesitated, her foot hovering over a particularly frail-looking plank. What if this isn't the way out? She said, her voice trembling. What if we're walking into something worse? We can't think like that. We have to trust whatever is guiding us, Sarah replied, though her own heart was heavy with doubt. Then came a rumble, a low growl resonating from below. It vibrated through the boards and right into their bones, sending shivers racing up their spines. Anna gasped, glancing down at the sheer darkness that gaped beneath them, a depth filled with unknowable horrors. Don't look down, Sarah commanded, urgency fueling her voice. Just before she could finish her sentence, a sinister roar erupted from beneath. It was as if a beast, clad in shadows, had come alive, furious for its prey. The bridge shook violently, logs snapping under the pressure, and both girls stumbled. Run! Sarah yelled. They sprinted, their feet pounding against the weathered planks as the bridge trembled under the weight of the unseen specter. Behind them, shadows slithered like serpents, eager to pull them back into the darkness. Everything shifted, the air was thick with unrelenting dread. Anna's foot slipped on a rotting board, and she cried out, the sound piercing through the howling wind. Anna! Sarah shrieked, turning back. She reached out just in time to catch her friend's arm, tugging her forward. But the board screamed in protest, collapsing beneath the weight of panic. They barely made it to solid ground when the last of the bridge shattered behind them, a final snap like a gunshot. The beast roared again, but all they could do was breathe, their chests heaving, hearts racing. What was that? Anna cried, voice quaking. I don't know, But I think it was what was waiting for us, Sarah whispered, hands trembling as she peered into the haze behind them, but only emptiness answered fronting them. The forest loomed once more, its trees twisted, gnarled like skeletal fingers reaching for the sky. Every hollow echo seemed to say they were not safe, not yet. They pressed forward, moving into the shadows once more. As they navigated the dense underbrush, a chill swept through the air, heavier than before. Anna felt an invisible weight pressing down from all sides, stifling her breath. "Something's not right," she murmured, heart pounding in her throat. Sarah nodded. Panic clawed at her chest. "We need to keep going," she insisted, squaring her shoulders. The part of the forest they traversed now felt wrong, familiar yet skin-crawlingly strange, as if each tree had been watching them from the moment they entered. Then they stumbled into a clearing, a desolate expanse shrouded in shadows. At its center stood a stone altar, worn with age, and around it lay scattered bones, animal or human. It was impossible to tell. "What is this place?" Anna stammered, her voice small and hollow. I don't know, but we need to leave," Sarah said, her eyes fixed on the stone. For a heartbeat, a low pulse emanated from it, as if it had a heartbeat of its own, thrumming against the stillness. As they backed away, a soft whisper caressed their ears, familiar yet unplaceable. "Your choices brought you here," it taunted, echoing in the dark like a lover's sigh. "We didn't choose this," Anna cried out, voice echoing into the void. But the shadows tightened around them, thickening like fog. And then the trees began to sway, leaning closer, their roots shifting as if they were alive, preparing to strike. "Run! Again!" Sarah shouted, pulling Anna along as they scrambled away from the altar, back into the brambles. But before they could flee, the ground shook beneath their feet, a warning and perhaps a promise. What lay ahead in the depths of this forest? Was the altar a warning or an invitation? Desperation clawed at them as they realized the true battle had only just begun. Sarah and Anna raced away from the altar as if the ground were a serpent trying to swallow them whole. The ominous whispers grew louder, pulling at their sanity like a tide threatening to swallow them in despair. "We need to find Jake," Sarah shouted, dread gnawing at her gut. "I know. But where?" Anna replied, panting heavily, shadows swirling menacingly behind them. Heart racing, Sarah wrestled with fear and determination. As they broke free of the grasp of the altar's dark energy, the woods opened wide into another clearing, and there it was, a dilapidated cabin crouched at the edge of the trees. "What do you think?" Anna asked, uncertainty flickering through her eyes. "Can he be in there?" "Only one way to find out," Sarah said resolutely, gripping Anna's hand. They approached the cabin, its door hanging precariously on rusty hinges. A dark chill enveloped them as they stepped inside, the smell of mildew thickening the air. The musty interiors echoed with the ghostly remnants of a life once lived. "Jake!" Sarah called, her voice trembling but resolute, hoping against hope that he would hear her. Silence answered. "Let us check upstairs," Anna urged, fearlessly marching toward a staircase steeped in shadows. They hurried up the creaking steps, her heart pounding with the cold rhythms of urgency. At the top, another door loomed, partially ajar. Sarah nudged it open, and her breath hitched. There he was, bound, eyes wide with fear, staring at them from the shadowy interior. "Jake!" she cried, launching forward, but the room pulsed as if barricaded by an unseen force. "Mom! It's a trap!" Jake shouted, eyes filled with terror. "Get away!" It was too late. A thin mist slithered out from the corners of the room, billowing toward them like the smoke of a sinister fire. "Sarah!" Anna shouted, pulling her back as the mist surged forward, tendrils wrapping around their ankles, pulling them toward it. "No! We're getting him out!" Sarah yelled, fighting against the mist. The panic in her voice fueled them. Suddenly, the shadows flickered, revealing faces trapped in eternal anguish. "Help us," they whispered, hands reaching out as if pleading for deliverance. "Not again." Sarah felt her resolve hardening. "We can't become part of this." Summoning every ounce of strength, she reached for Jake, through the wailing mist. "Hold on, we'll find a way." With sheer determination, Sarah took a step forward, her figure glowing faintly against the rising chaos. You will not claim us!" she yelled, her voice a battle cry against the encircling shadows. The mist roared back, shifting as it fought her mental command. Anna steadied Sarah, anchoring her. "Together, we make it out. Hold hands!" Sarah shouted, eyes fierce. Gripping each other firmly, they formed a united front, planting their feet down against the rising pull of darkness and mist. With their other hands, they clasped Jake's, and together, they pulled. "Don't let go!" Anna shouted again, their voices combining in a crescendo of fierce defiance. Suddenly, the mist shrieked, wild and furious, as if caught in an unexpected storm. The faces twisted and writhed, the very essence of the fog began to evaporate. "Fools!" they cried, voices echoing through the cabin. "Now, now!" Sarah pressed, feeling their connection solidify, emboldened by unity. "We will break this curse." Light burst within the cabin, a radiant beam illuminating their frozen forms engulfed in dark. The shadows recoiled, pulling back as if singed by sunlight, fading away into the gloom. Jake burst free from the shadows. "Mom! I thought I lost you." Relief washed over Sarah, but it was too early to feel safe. They could hear the forest thrumming with rage, the shadows still lurking close on their heels. "This way!" Anna pulled Jake, leading them down the stairs and out onto the porch, where the night still held its breath, darkness poised for an attack. Without hesitation, they raced into the trees, hearts pounding, trusting that their combined strength would lead them to safety. "Faster!" Sarah urged, not daring to look back. The forest felt alive, trees leaning as if listening, whispering secrets in their haste. "This way!" Anna shouted, pointing toward a flicker through the trees. They could glimpse the edge of the woods, the safety beyond. Hope surged through them, propelling them forward. The shadows lunged, falling behind, desperation marking their relentless chase. "We're almost there," Sarah encouraged, adrenaline flooding through her veins, carrying them to the safety of the familiar clearings and paths. Just ahead, light poured from the final trees, and they burst through, into the moonlit space where their neighborhood lay wrapped peacefully beneath the stars, a stark contrast to the horror still lurking behind them. "We made it!" Anna cheered, breathless and trembling, relief loosening the tight knots of fear around their hearts. But then the ground shook beneath them. "Look!" Jake pointed back, his voice quivering as shadows melded with the trees, a reminder to all of the darkness that lay just outside their family's safety. "It's not over." The ominous whisper grew louder, a promise of vengeance hidden within the night. "We'll be watching it," taunted, hauntingly familiar yet cruel in its cruelty. With a single breath, Sarah squared her shoulders, clenching her fists with determination. "No! We'll fight! Together!" The shadows may linger, but they had conquered their fears, united, and committed to protecting what they love. The three of them stepped forward, hearts beating in resolve, as they faced the darkness together. The night would remember their names, the souls that fought back, the brave united against the harbinger of fear. And above, the moon shone, a beacon of hope against the swirling night, no longer alone. It was a beginning, a promise, a challenge to the darkness. And together, they would reclaim their future. And now, before you leave, there is something you need to do. Subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that could change everything for you. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support helps bring more thrilling tales our way. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about everything you've just witnessed. We want to hear your thoughts, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Real fans know the importance of sharing these stories. Let us spread the thrill together.